ask you to cast your mind back to some of those things. 2008, you actually interviewed him, sort of through some bars in a courtroom.
Yes, I conducted what I think is, in fact, the only interview, face-to-face interview with Hodorkovsky after he was formally sentenced in 2005. I happened to be in Siberia, travelling across Siberia, reporting. As one does as an FT Moscow bureau chief, which I was then. I was reporting in the run-up to the 2008 presidential elections, and I happened to be in Chita, which is an outpost on the Trans-Siberian Railway. In February 2008, Hodorkovsky was in court that day for a pre-trial hearing connected with a second set of charges which the Russian authorities brought against him in about 2007, 2008. And much to our surprise, after he'd made some initial arguments, the judges retired and we were left alone in the courtroom with him, a few spectators, myself, and I managed to push a microphone through the bars of the cage in which Russian defendants in courtrooms have to stand, and spoke to him for about 40 minutes at that time.
Right, and I mean, you wrote at that time, you came away fearing for his life.
Yes, he was very thin and very weak at that point. He was on hunger strike because a former colleague from his Yukos oil company, Vasily Alexanyan, former chief counsel of Yukos, had also been arrested, as a lot of other senior executives of the oil company were. Alexanyan had developed AIDS and complications of AIDS, and claimed that he was being withheld treatment in order to compel him to testify against Hodorkovsky in that second court case. And Hodorkovsky went on hunger strike to basically try and secure proper treatment for Alexanyan. So Hodorkovsky looked very weak, he didn't sound well at all, he was very pale, but very defiant, very dignified, as he always was actually through all his trials and appearances.
Another thing you wrote, as a prisoner of conscience, Hodorkovsky is a flawed figure.
Yes, you have to remember that he was a very controversial guy, particularly in the 1990s. There were a lot of foreign investors, Russian investors, who spit venom about Hodorkovsky, who tangled with him in those years, lost large sums of money, say that he didn't play by the rules, did lots of very, very dodgy things. And so he's a very interesting character, flawed character. A lot of Russians in 2003 thought he got what he deserved, frankly, when he was sent to jail.
Well, he's got a good quote. It's hard to feel sorry for a rich person. I think he said that.
Exactly, he did say that.
He's sort of self-aware of how people would perceive him. Right, we need to just deal with the sort of practicalities of all this. Why has Putin done it?
Well, the assumption is, I think, twofold. First of all, he felt that he could do it now because Hodorkovsky isn't a threat. Putin clearly feels that although he's been through a difficult 2 years, faced the first big public demonstrations against his rule in the dozen years in which he's been the paramount politician in Russia, he very much gives the impression now he thinks that he's got the situation under control. He was very self-confident yesterday in a 4-hour press conference with journalists in Moscow, and he slipped out this news about the Hodorkovsky release at the very end. In fact, after the press conference had finished and the cameras had stopped rolling, he just said it to a small group of journalists at the very end. Oh, by the way, we're releasing Hodorkovsky. So he's clearly, he feels self-confident domestically, but internationally he knows his image well. He also knows that people have started to pull out very senior levels from the Sochi Olympics. Russia has spent $50 billion on preparations for the Sochi Olympics. This is supposed to be a big public relations opportunity, a big kind of party. And I think he wants to repair Russia's image.
It's sort of almost like a yes-no answer. Will Hodorkovsky become an irrelevant? You know, a voice like Berezovsky is shouting from the margins.
I think he'll be more relevant than Berezovsky because he's been to jail. He's done 10 years. He's seen as someone who has sort of purged his soul. Jail time's very important in the Russian psyche, very powerful in the Russian psyche. So I think what he says will carry more import than Berezovsky ever did.
Thank you very much, Neil Buckley. You're listening to the World Service of the BBC. Now, it's been, of course, another day in Baghdad, which means a lot of violence. A suicide bomber attacked a group of Shia pilgrims. Gunmen in military uniforms broke into the home of a former militia member and shot him and most of his family, and so it goes on. For many Iraqis, life really is very chaotic. Shaima Khalil is there.
Well, when you drive through the streets of Baghdad, you just do feel that this is a militarized city. Everywhere you go, men in uniform carrying guns on every corner. You get stopped at so many checkpoints. If you're lucky, they ask you a couple of questions and let you go. If you're not, they ask for your papers, they search the car, and sometimes they turn you away. And this is the kind of tension that Baghdad lives in day in and day out. And of course, it's because of all the violence that we hear in the headlines. I'm here in a very different setting. I'm in the house of the Mushattat family. They've kindly invited me over some brilliant Iraqi food and breakfast, and I just wanted to get a feel of the people behind the headlines, how ordinary Iraqis live their lives. And I would like to welcome Raad. Good morning, Raad. How are you? And Shahid.
Hi, good morning.
For someone who doesn't know the daily life of Iraq, how do you deal with this constant violence, Shahid?
I just live like everybody else is living here. We go to work with my brothers and go to school, college. It's just an everyday worry because you worry about your family, your friends, your husband, your sisters and brothers. You never know when we're then gonna be bombing in the streets.
And Raad, Shahid was saying, this is my life. I'm used to this. Do you ever get used to this kind of violence?
Never, actually. It's very frustrating. It's very difficult. It's a daily worry. When a bombing happen somewhere in Baghdad, when a bombing shake the city, right?
Yeah.
You worry about everybody,
Everybody
you know.
in the family.
And we start calling each other, you know. At work, you see your colleagues and your friends are all on the phones, just making sure that their relatives and their friends and their families are fine. So it can never be a normal thing.
And I understand that you're recently married.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But again, people listening to this would say, wait a minute, you got married in Baghdad. How in the world do you go about planning a wedding in Baghdad?
You can never plan a wedding in Baghdad. It just happens. I have family who's living abroad in London. They were asking all the time, when is the wedding? We have to know. We have to take time off to be there. But I was always saying, what do you mean, when is the wedding? I'm living in Baghdad. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if I'm going to live or die.
I witnessed the wedding. The wedding was brilliant. It was a great wedding. So normal life carries on regardless, whatever. The fear and the death and all these horrible things going around you make you even more attached to life and to the details of your
More
daily
eager
life.
to live, I think.
But I mean, for me myself, in the part where I am involved, I mean, my work that I do, I think if everybody does the thing that he believes in the best way he can, believing in the future of this country, believing in the people of this country, believing in their integrity, I think this country one day the violence stops and people can live a normal life. And all the reasons in the world for having a good life in Iraq is there. It's just the political situation is so bad and so ignorant, actually, to the potential of this country and how it could be.
And you just mentioned, Raad, the political situation. And when people hear about the political situation in Iraq, instantly they think about sectarianism, about Sunni minority versus Shia majority in the government, and the violence that this triggers on the streets day in and day out. But I was interested to know that your family itself is half Sunni, half Shia. And when I asked you about this, Shahid, what did it feel like to be of mixed sects?
I didn't know that I was half Sunni, half Shia. I didn't know even what Sunni or Shia was till 2003 when my daddy died. Because he was killed because he was a Sunni in a Shia area. We were living in a Shia area. We moved, of course, 2005, I think. But when he died, and I knew that he died for that reason, then I knew it was different. Then I knew there was some kind of, I don't know, I can't say historical hateness because my family is Shia. I can't hate my family. I can't even hate Shia